Welcome to week 5, show 9 of the 2023 season, live from Hickory Street, right in beautiful Denton Square. This is the DenCo Gridiron Show. What's up, Lee?
Not much. Clicking buttons at the wrong time.
Oh man, off to another rip-roaring start here in the DenCo Gridiron Show. Welcome everybody. My name is Steven Peters, the managing editor for the DenCo Gridiron platform. That's DenCoGridiron.com. We obviously have our show, DenCo Gridiron Show. I'm joined to my right. The audience is left with Lee Livingston. What's happening, man?
Not much right now. Just I think getting ready for another week of football, and I can't really. Yeah, I think enjoying the weather actually a little bit, which is really fun. Actually, it's been nice.
It's been nice, yeah, for sure, to not wake up and immediately feel dread of what this day is going to turn into. So it's definitely a nice change of pace. Those storms that came in 2 Fridays ago have just ushered in fall, basically, and it's been great. Yeah, this week has been crazy on my side. Shout out to all of the coaches, whether you're the head coach, assistant coach, whatever, just a position coach. I appreciate you guys either submitting stuff through Huddle and Max Preps or dealing with me and emailing me info directly. It has been great. It's been a long week of inputting defensive stats this week to try to up our ante in terms of what we offer. So we appreciate you guys. If you ever are interested in following what we're doing, of course, we have the DenCoGridiron.com. You can always follow us on socials. What are those social channels, Lee?
Those social channels are going to be at DenCo Gridiron. That's going to be our main platform. You can find us over on X or Twitter, whatever you want to refer to it as. I know most of us probably still call it Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be the same thing over on Instagram. That's where you'll see a lot of our video stuff. Is going to be
you
on
put
Instagram.
Out some good highlights.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys. And real quick, for any players, if you know that we're going to be at your game or we were at your game, feel free to shoot me a message or us a message on the social media on our homepage, but you can find me at Lee Livingston 13 on Twitter. Yep. And I think it's the same thing on Instagram. But let me know and I'll see if hopefully, because I'm just one camera guy, if you had a great game and you're like, hey, I had some great plays, just shoot me a message and I'll try to put something together for you. If I was in the right spot at the right time, and I would love to put. Nothing makes me happier than putting cool highlight packages together and stuff.
Yeah, fantastic stuff with Khalil.
Yeah, I love doing that. You know, especially when I think we got to interview him after the game because he was such a game changer, and
yeah, for sure,
I love doing that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to work on something for that Friday game we were at with Panther Creek and Braxton Roberts, trying to finish that up here today.
Yeah.
So and then we can find you over at what is it? I am Speeders. I always want to say.
Yeah.
I am S. Peters.
Yeah, I am Speeders.
I want to read it.
I mean, you can read it how you want it. I know I say I am Speeders when I.
Hey, it's fun. It's more of a fun
on
name.
the Twizzler/X. That's all I'm at. You can like you said, DenCo Gridiron. That's on YouTube, Facebook. X, Instagram, YouTube. Threads. All those channels, we're there. So again, shout out to the players that have been following us and sharing our content. We just put out a graphic this week about the area leaders, whether it's passing, rushing, receiving, defensive, and man, it exploded with shares and retweets and likes and comments. So keep doing it. We're trying to grow the show as it is said in the business as well as our platform. So We appreciate the support. I think we even had Glenn Roberts. I think he watches us regularly.
Shout out to I think it is Glenn Roberts. It's Braxton Roberts' dad. So appreciate the love. When I was walking up to the stadium over in Toyota Stadium in Frisco, appreciate it. So shout out to you and any other parents watching. We love it. It's awesome. We love watching your kids play football at the end of the day, just because, and any players watching, it's just a blast. As I've gotten older, I'm just a fan of athletes in general. Less and less of like a diehard fanatic, except for like Oklahoma. Yeah. Outside of like that, it's really, for me, it's such a blast watching guys or girls, whatever sport it is, do excel at something that you can't do or whatever. And it's so much, it's just so much fun.
Yeah. And I think that's what the industry, as in journalism or sports journalism or media, whatever, kind of does to you. You don't really necessarily have a fandom to one team. Like, don't get me wrong. I would love for Louisville to get another state championship just because I graduated from there, but I don't have this like dying need to see them every week or be integrated with the team. Like, I just enjoy getting down to the field, toward the end of the game and just seeing the camaraderie with the players or just the play in general. It's much different from up in the box than it is on the field and everything. So it's good to have that balance of seeing that all 22 type view and then getting out to the field and just watching the play kind of intimately and also paying attention to make sure you don't get run over.
Oh yeah. And that's I think when you bring up the all 22 kind of thing, it's always weird when you're watching two DenCo Gridiron teams, especially.
Yeah.
Like I think of the Lone Star Reedy game where it's like, it's so fun watching Lone Star after that game. And then it sucks because you're watching Reedy. It was so fun watching them win that game the next week, but then you're seeing Wakeland and like these games that are real tight with two teams that we cover. And it's like, man, you feel horrible for one side and it's like great for this other.
Elated for the other.
Yeah. And it's like, that's why it's fun going to games where we just have the one DenCo Gridiron team because it's like, especially when they win, because it's like, oh, I can just feel great about it.
Yeah.
But then when you cover the two of them, sometimes, man, you feel terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it happens.
It happens.
But at least it kind of helps from our perspective whenever it comes to the after the game stuff. It kind of CYAs a little bit, so we at least have a winner that we know we're going to talk to, regardless. So it doesn't, we don't have to go talk to whomever. They lose by 30 and they're like, hey coach, what'd you see out there or whatever. So anywho, again, shout out to the players, coaches, fans, parents, all that stuff that support us, as well as share our things and just provide general commentary. We appreciate it.
And as we get into the show real quick, feel free, comments and stuff. If you're watching us if you ever watch us live, we're live here at 1 p.m. on Wednesdays with our preview show before we get into the games on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays going into the playoffs. And then Saturday recap shows, those are at 11 a.m. So if you do watch us live, feel free to drop comments and stuff. We'll have I've got the comments here in front of me, so I'll try to bring them up. If you've got questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is, feel free to let us know, and I'll try to read them out and we'll talk about them. And then if you're watching this after the fact, we got replays and stuff. You can, we already talked about our social channels. You can also email us over at info@dencogridiron.com. All right. So with all that out of the way, go ahead and take us into our news and notes.
All right, man. News and notes. So we want to congratulate first off our weekly award winners on offense and defense. We'll start off with offense, and that's Will Krzyzak for Argyle. Man, he put up huge numbers. Was it 8 catches, 5 touchdowns for 200 some odd yards? 285, I think. It was an absurd performance for Will against Montgomery. Moses Adalowo for Braswell put up a huge game. He had over 200 yards rushing. Cade Bortnam from Lake Dallas and Ty Tabor and Crum. Those round out our offensive players of the week. We over in defensive side of things, we have Errol West for Ryan, monster game. Marlon Ferguson with a huge game for Denton High. I think as a lineman, he had 2 interceptions. Insane. Unfortunately, they lost. I was pulling for them when I was watching the scoreboards on Friday night to pull that one out against Gainesville. Nathaniel Bruce for Argyle and Mateo Gonzalez for Crum. Mateo is actually one of the 3 area leaders in tackles with 44. So we have 3 atop the leaderboard with 44. So and he is one of them. And again, shout out to all the coaches and assistant coaches and position coaches and even fans. Trent Wood from Frisco Legacy, he's a fan. He follows and will send regular stats to us or send stats regularly to us through Twitter. We appreciate you guys. Your help makes us look like all-stars, because without it, we wouldn't know our ass from our elbows. dead serious. We wouldn't. So I mean, and it's one of those things with high school football. Well, we're lucky that we're in the area. We have like the Dallas Morning News, which will provide live stats and a good box score and everything automatically. When you get into the smaller schools like the Crumbs, the Ponders, and stuff like that, where they're not regularly covered, if we didn't have the max preps and the coaches to tracking this stuff or iPads and all that, it would just be some handwritten scrabble and just nope, not gonna work. Not gonna work. This isn't working for us. So we appreciate it. All right, man. Let's get into some teams. We've got one team not playing this week. They have an open week, and that is Northwest. And then we open district play for 14. Half of our coverage area is opening district play. 4-6A still playing district play. 6-5AD1 is still in district play. 5-6A is still in district play. So in a couple, I think next week or in a couple of weeks, we'll have TAPS open their district play. They have smaller conferences or districts, so they'll open in a couple weeks. But 14 teams. That's 6-6A, 3-5AD2, 7-4AD1, 5-4AD2, and 4-3AD1. 14 teams right there that open district play. The real stuff begins. Lee, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm excited. It's fun. We've got everyone with the exception of a couple teams. Our private school teams are, I mean, they're in the thick of it now. Like that's
yeah.
District play is where it feels like, I mean, you start about 3 weeks from now, we're going to start. I mean, even after this week, because we've already got some teams that are in district play. You know, you think of our Frisco schools, they're 2 weeks into it. After this week, it'll be 3.
Yeah.
We're going to start knocking off some district contenders. We're going to start chipping away at who's really in the playoff race. I mean, that's the thing with district. We talked about a lot about how non-district gives you an idea of who's who and what's what. But we were talking about it with Aubrey before. It's like, it doesn't matter that you're 0-4 or whatever going into district play. At the end of the day, district is all that matters. It doesn't define anything. I mean, you think about the NFL in the NFC South. I think this is a good example where, going into the season, you play these teams twice in the NFL. If you just win out, if you're in a real weak division, a lot of times that can get you. It doesn't matter how bad a division is. Like, you can get into the playoffs if you just win those divisional games. It's the same thing here, kind of at the high school football level. You win these games. It does not matter if you were 0-3, 0-4, because you took care of business at the district level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Aubrey's a perfect example of this, and Sock the year before, last year, I think. Yeah. You know, we've talked to, or at least I said, you know, you see what you are after 1 week, and then if you do it again, you're setting a trend. In 3 weeks, that's who you are. Well, the good thing with district plays, it allows you to basically start brand new. You know, put all the failings of the first however many weeks in front of you, or don't overly rely on all the successes you had in the first few weeks, because now the teams that know you the best are coming up on your schedule, and it's going to be a grind. So it doesn't matter if you lost by 20 each week. You know, you're going to be playing against a team that you know, and their system and the kids and everything like that, and makes game planning a little bit easier, I think. And it works in the opposite way as well. They know you, they know what you're about, and they're going to try their best to either find their own way into the playoffs, or B, spoil your season. Or it's just, you know, two really good teams going at it. So I'm excited for district play. I mean, and even after this week, it doesn't feel like it, just because I think from my perspective, it might be yours as well, we've just been kind of mowing and blowing and going and everything like that. We'll be past the halfway point.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the halfway point, because it feels like, I think we've covered several new schools. It feels like we've been covering a lot of new schools, and then that which is awesome. I love getting to expand our little coverage area. Yep. Because for a long time it was, you know, we kind of had to stay local, like in the 6-6A, 5-6A, because it was just a couple of us. And, you know, you weren't here yet, so we didn't have quite as much experience in covering stuff. So it helps having, you know, someone who's actually been covering high school football a little bit longer. And then I think it's just now everyone is in district play. So it's like, I didn't even realize that we were halfway. just because we hadn't, so many teams weren't actually in like what I would think of as like, this is the real part of the season. This is like now high school football season's really going, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm excited. Like I said, the real season begins, and then in a short 6 weeks after this week, we'll be in the playoffs. So it'll be here before you know it, and we'll be wondering, as opposed to wondering how are we going to cool off from this 1,000-degree temperature, it's how we're going to stay warm when it's 25 degrees and you have a wind chill of 15 and all that good stuff. Then come December, maybe late November and everything. All right. So quick trivia time. I did this to you last week. I don't have the map up, but I do know that there are 5 teams that are undefeated. You have a gimme right below it. So you should basically have to name 4. What are the 5 undefeated teams in our area?
It's going to be Lake Dallas, Denton, Ryan, Frisco Legacy, Argyle Liberty Christian, and then missing one more. It's oh, good grief. Oh, I should know this one.
You should know. I'll give you a hint. They're blue.
Blue does not.
Okay.
No. It's shoot.
They're the only one in that district. There's your second hint that we cover.
Byron Nelson.
There you go.
That took me. That's a miss Byron Nelson. That was a.
I mean, it's tough to remember those Northwest ISD schools because there's 2 of them that we cover out of 3. They're so far away from this area, like Denton proper. Yeah, it's so far away.
It's just out of the way from my mind.
Fair enough. Yeah. So those are the 5 undefeated teams after 4 weeks. Denton, Ryan, Lake Dallas, Frisco Legacy, Argyle Liberty Christian, and Byron Nelson. All right, man. So we've got some games to talk about this week. As usual, that's what we do with our preview show. We talk about a handful of games that we're interested in seeing. We're going to talk about 2 that we're going to be in, or be at, I should say, not be in, including our DenCo Gridiron Game of the week. So first, we'll start off with our Thursday game, right?
Yep. Which means the week 5 breakdown.
All right, this week 5 breakdown brought to you by us, your local gurus in Denton County football. Our Thursday game that we'll be at is going to be, there's 3 to choose from. To be honest, they all are projected to be very big blowouts. So we kind of just chose the best of the worst game. Of the worst games, I should say. They also have 2 DenCo Gridiron teams. So it's the Colony versus Denton Ryan. We've got 1-3 Colony. They are 1-1 in 3-5 AD1 play. And then Denton Ryan 3-0, as we mentioned a minute ago, as well as 2-0 in district play. The Colony last week, they played Burleson Centennial. Couldn't really keep up against that ground attack. They gave up 444 yards on the ground, 370 on the ground of those 444. The Colony could not get its own ground game going. I think the high man of the day was Harold Gibson, who had 39 yards rushing. Not a solid performance. And then Carson Cox. This was kind of the year I thought, having last year under his belt and some trial by fire type of things going on with the new district and being the starter and everything, he would elevate his play. Can't say that we have seen the elevation in his play. He was only 7 of 18 for 138 yards. He did have 2 passing touchdowns, but that's the unit. The offensive side of the ball that I think really needs a huge boost to kind of ease the burden for the defense because it struggled here a little bit. It's gone up and down this season. So that's kind of the huge thing to watch out for is can the offense sustain drives? Can they keep the defense off the field and shorten the game against Ryan? Because Ryan, they've looked strong the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they've looked really good here in the last few games. At the end of the day, Ryan's, I think is it Nemo Warmate? I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher
Nemo
that.
Warmate.
Okay. Just been a stud. 232 yards on 28 carries. And then Brian Simmons, 16 carries, 157 yards. At the end of the day, they've got 4 guys with over 100 yards rushing. And it's not that you've got 4 guys with over 100 yards rushing, and it's not on that many carries between the 4 of them. So I think this is a rushing attack that is just poised to really go out and kind of just pick apart's probably the wrong word, but maybe that is the right one. But it's just going to bully the Colony. And I think that's where you need the Colony's offense to be able to go out there and sustain drives, because if the Colony's defense, just based on what we've seen before, you got to hold something together from that offensive side, because maybe the defense isn't a problem. Maybe it's a fine defense. It's hard to do anything defensively when your offense is consistently going out there and going three and out, you know. Yep. And it's not like the Colony doesn't have good players. They've got the receiver Xavier Green, 11 receptions, and he has 222 yards. You know, that's about 22 yards of reception. I mean, that's a lot of talent to go out and do that. I mean, that's not nothing. But at the end of the day, I'm just like you were talking about. This offense has got to do something. Otherwise, Denton Ryan could go out here, I think, and just have a field day. So,
yeah. And as a refresher, I mean, this was a close game last year, and I think that spoke a lot to just how, I wouldn't say dysfunctional last year's Ryan team was, just how incomplete it felt. Like this year, it doesn't seem like we're really talking about 1 or 2 guys being just, you know, studs, and that's all we focus on. It's a legit, to me, a team again. You know, it's a well-rounded team. My favorite phrase was they were better. The sum of the parts were better than the sum of the whole. I think this year, because we don't have, you know, these ridiculous 5-star studs, you know, there's no Jatavian Sanders or Billy Bowman or Anthony Hill or whomever that we're really focusing on. It's allowing this gelling type system to take place, or however you want to phrase it. So I think that's why we're saying like kind of Ryan is back to being its old Ryan self. Granted, it's played 2 very bad district teams in Azle, and then last week who did they play?
The Centennial, is that correct?
No, that was the Colony. Who did Ryan play? As you live watch us look up on the schedule.
Saginaw.
Yes, Saginaw. Very bad teams. No, I mean, granted, all woes go away, or all kind of holes go away when you play teams that are vastly inferior than you. I would say the Colony is vastly inferior, but I can't say that the talent level is that strong. Anywho, the point I'm trying to make is that Brian is, to me, is a solid team, and I think a lot of the questions that we had coming into this season for him all kind of really started at the quarterback play. TJ Hobbs has solidified what was his really uneasy understanding of where that position was going to be. I mean, not that Brady Mussett wasn't a good quarterback. We just knew him as a receiver and had some ability to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. TJ is a quarterback. So, you know, it's been good to kind of see that transpire for Ryan's sake, as well as a full, well-rounded unit on defense coming into to form. Whether that's with, you know, Uzziah Warmate or Eli Wallace or Trey Bates, all these guys putting up big numbers early in the first 3 weeks, and allowing the defense to score either at will, or the offense to score at will, and the defense to be able to get rest. So yeah, it's a good season so far for Ryan. We'll see how things shake out when they play the Elitos and the Burleson Centennials, maybe even Northwest. But right now things are looking strong. This one is, I think, a 26-point spread for Ryan in the Colony, so it could be a blowout on Thursday night. 32.5. I was wrong for Ryan. So yeah, hopefully the Colony can keep it close, but just based off of trends, it's not looking like that.
Yeah, based on what we've seen here early in the season, through this halfway point, I don't think the Colony will keep it close. Hopefully they can, because I would just like to see the Colony here heading into this early part of the district play take some kind of step forward.
Yep.
And at least in this game, that you don't expect them to win or anything. And we didn't have this as a win for them going into the season.
Correct.
It's just make some progress, do something better than you have been. And I don't expect them to necessarily stop Ryan off their defense to stop Ryan much offensively, just because of how well Ryan's been playing. I think Ryan's getting good, solid quarterback play from TJ Hobbs. They're going to hand the ball off a lot. And then when TJ does throw, he's getting the job done. So I don't think like I said, they're going to stop Ryan offensively. But I do want to see the Colony go out and just play better offensively.
Yeah.
I would like for them to put up somewhere around like the 21-28 mark, just because Ryan's defense has been so good. I think that would be a huge step up. I think the biggest worry for the Colony is, do they only score like somewhere between 7 points or getting shut out? It's like, are you struggling to get, like, is the Colony like able to get the ball past the halfway mark on the 50-yard line throughout the game? Like, that feels like a real possibility, and I'm a little nervous for them. So
yeah, for sure. But like we said, if last year's any indication, they have the potential to keep it close, but we'll see when it comes to Thursday night at CH Collins Athletic Complex.
Yeah.
Another game, this is moving to a Friday night game, where one of our, or at least one of my favorites. It's one of the smaller schools, is Gainesville versus Sanger. This is a district opener for 5-4-AD2. Gainesville went toe-to-toe with Denton last week and won 51-47. As I said, I was watching the scoreboard and hoping for a Denton win, just because they were putting up some points. We know we've seen some struggles out of that this year. Obviously, the defense is not quite up to snuff. So a solid win for Gainesville. And they could easily be a sleeper in this district. We talked about Aubrey being 0-4. They're one of two in that district who opened the district slate winless. The other team is Bridgeport. So just kind of looking at 5-4-AD2, you're looking at Farmersville and Gainesville at the top, Crum and Van Alstyne and Sanger right there in the middle, then Aubrey and Bridgeport bringing up the rear. So they're, it seems wide open. They could be a sleeper team. They could be the best team in this district, just based off the early returns for this season. And then for Sanger, they got rolled last week against Mineral Wells, lost 48-10. You definitely going to need to see the defense improve for Sanger. So this is kind of why I'm very interested in this game, is because we see a Gainesville team that is excelling early in the year, and we see a Sanger team that's had some rough patches, having to replace a lot of talent from last year, like the Stephen Bushes or the Logan Lewises, and as well as have a new coach.
Yeah, for Sanger, I think this is I kind of want to mark it as a must win, because like you said, Gainesville is one of those sleeper teams to make a pretty good push in this district. And if you're Sanger, I think you need to right the ship here pretty quickly, because you're 1-3. It just has not been the start to the season you want, and getting off to a slow start in district. This is one of those teams where you started the season slow overall. You have what feels like a winnable game early in district. Go out and get it. I don't think this is a situation where you want to start 0-1, and it's not like this is a district where you play a ton of games compared to the Frisco district. I wish I'm forgetting that number off my head, but there's not a lot of wiggle room in a district where you have less teams.
Yeah.
So you get off to a hot start. Go be 1-0 if you're Sanger. It's just that to me this is a big game for them, especially.
Yeah, so I mean, you got Gainesville this week, then you have Van Alstyne the week after. Really two tough teams to open up district play. Then you have Crum, a cross county team, and then Aubrey. So we don't know what Aubrey is yet when it comes to district play. They could be out of it by then. They could be right in the thick of the district title. So to your point, go out there and win the game, and start district playoff right all the wrongs that you've seen so far, and get that offense going. It's been solid, but it might have to start doing more.
That's a good point, because Luke Thompson's been having a solid year. It's just you need to start, I think, seeing a little bit more from its Reed Sebastian at the quarterback position.
Yep.
And that's asking a little bit. It's just cut down a little bit on those interceptions. It's the 4-3 touchdown interception ratio.
Yep.
So cut back a little bit on that, and then hopefully just an uptick in efficiency at that position. 718 passing yards is good, and they do have him throwing the ball, chucking the ball a lot. Now, part of that's because they've been down in some games, so the passing attempts are up, and so you're going to see the passing, the completion percentage is going to be a little skewed, things like that.
Yep.
It's just, I think, just seeing him play a little more efficient, even when you're down, like he's going to have to make those bigger throws.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why
you're asking a lot. So it's just,
especially for a kid first year as a starting quarterback. Last year was Logan Lewis, and he was a really good passer. You had a different stable of running backs and a completely different system too. So, we'll see just kind of how this goes, and hopefully Sanger can undo what's happened to them early on in this year, and then like you said, start 1-0 in district play.
All righty, folks, and that's going to lead us into a quick little ad break. Say hi to our friend John.
Everything's bigger in Texas, especially Texas high school football. We're entering our 7th season with the DenCo Gridiron platform. We started this 7 years ago right across the street at West Oak Coffee Bar. Just an idea to bring content directly wherever you are. Be a part of the community. Join us. Help our contributors to tell the stories each and every Friday night throughout the season. Talking your town, your team.
That's our DenCo Gridiron Sugar Daddy. What's up, John? He was here in the studio earlier. Brought me some gifts for the home portion of what we broadcast and everything. So appreciate him and what he does for us here, including rent the studio area out for us. All right, man. We got some other games we want to watch and pay attention to on Friday nights before we get into our game of the week. First one is Hebron against Marcus. It is a 6-6A opener. One of those 14 teams, 2 of those 14 teams, I should say, that are opening district play. So Hebron, a playoff team last year, looks solid so far this year. Had I would say a stinker of a loss. I mean, they lose by 17 to McKinney. A good McKinney team. I don't think that's really.
I don't think that's something I would not mark that as a stinker.
It just you got a good strong start, and you were hope to play maybe a little closer, maybe keep it to 10 points and less. But McKinney's good. They've got D1 athletes. John Towles is doing a fantastic job over there at Hebron so far. Made the playoffs last year. Trending so far like they might be a playoff team again this year. And then you got Marcus for the second straight year going into district play winless. And I'm just completely, it feels like that team has bottomed out right now. You have a first year coach in Mike Alexander, a lot of people who transferred out of the program from last year. They moved or whatever the reason might be. So we'll kind of see how they bounce back in terms of, giving up, 57 something points a game.
Yep.
It's
not good.
That's not a good defensive unit. So we could either see Hebron take advantage of that, or we could see kind of how we talked about with earlier in the show is like, we know who you are, and we're going to be ready for you. It's easier to game plan against you because you are who you are, and the skill set, the kids, and all this stuff. So very, very interested to see how both of these teams start. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Marcus won this game last year. Do you know that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, here, I'll pull it up real quick. It's going to be Marcus. Yeah, Marcus won 23-21 last year. Hebron had a bit of a rougher year last year. It was not where'd they finish up last year?
They finished 5-5, and then they went.
Yeah. They had the 4th playoff spot last year.
Yeah, I think it was a coin toss.
Yeah, it was a 23-21 victory for Marcus last year, and that was at Hebron.
Yeah.
So
we'll see about this one. I think Hebron will win this, kind of going away, but we'll see. The other couple of games, we have Prestonwood out of our TAPS schools versus San Antonio Cornerstone. the only thing I really care about this one is just, can Prestonwood put together a solid game? They had the chance to knock off a pretty good All Saints team at home last week. This was after they were getting their doors blown off against Little Elm, and was called a draw at halftime. So we haven't seen a full game out of Prestonwood yet this year. That's kind of what I want to see as they play this game and next game before hitting their district opener. Because if you can't, then all of our premonitions about them possibly being a state title contender again are just out the door.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that one. I think Prestonwood is a team where every week and I don't mean to be mean, it's just, it feels like every week it's been a little bit just progressing in the wrong direction. And
so would you call that regressing?
Yeah, regressing. Yeah, there we go. Let me just get my dictionary out. You know?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, it's just been like they've it's just been a regression every week. I mean, it feels like they're in our stock down segment more than I would have thought at the beginning of the year.
And with the talent that they have on defense that came back first again, as well as the talent that they have on offense that transferred in, such as Kellen Tasby, you would have expected a better start to this year. Even 2-2 would be a lot better than, or I guess it would be 2-1. I felt like there's been some winnable games last week included. So just want to kind of see how they perform against a okay Cornerstone team. They've been better in years past, but again, just kind of want to check in to make sure that, or just kind of see again where that stock is for Prestonwood. All right, moving back over into the UIL side of things, Lone Star versus Wakeland. We've seen both of these teams in the last couple of weeks. We saw Lone Star knock off Reedy in that exciting finish, and then we saw Reedy knock off Wakeland in that exciting finish. So this is the week to see if Lone Star is that team in that district, or are they going to play down to the talent level that they're facing, or are they just going to handle business, or can Wakeland be that spoiler team? I think this is still a district that's going to beat each other up, and we're not going to have any kind of undefeated team in district play. I think the only team that's left remaining to be undefeated is Frisco. So we'll see, but I honestly see this being just a mad dash to the finish, and we're not going to know any of the 4 playoff spots until week 11's conclusion.
I think that's probably the most accurate way this thing ends, is that it's just going to be an absolute mess. I mean, I have no idea how you're going to determine a district winner in this thing, because it just feels like there's 4 or 5 teams that could all make a run for this. I do think Lone Star is
a little bit of a cut above.
Yeah, just a cut above everyone else. They feel a little bit deeper. They got a little bit better quarterback play, a little more physical. They've got the physical traits that like Reedy does. They get a little more quarterback play, and they kind of just check all the boxes you want to see from a team that's trying to win a district title and going to make a little bit of a push in the playoffs. So I do think that Lone Star is going to go out and win this game, which maybe that's a bold prediction. I don't think it is, just because of what we saw from Wakeland last week, where they were undersized and they got bullied. And this is a Lone Star team that, I mean, they gave it to Reedy for a good chunk of the game. Yeah, they get after
it on defense.
Yeah, I mean, that defensive line was giving it to Reedy, and Reedy was giving it to Wakeland a week ago. So I think this could be a game where Lone Star just makes it really rough for Wakeland on the defensive front and on the offensive front. Brennan Meyer could be running around for his life through most of the game.
Yeah, 100%. Could you've got Trey Yanez at the linebacker spot for Lone Star. You've got Jackson Lee who comes off the edge and will play as a dial lineman on the front. So those guys are both just wreckers on the defense. He's still, I'm gonna butcher this last name, but Massimo Russolio. Yeah, maybe that's Russolio. He leads the team, or is tied for the team lead in tackles. He's got 2 forced fumbles. Trey Yanez, like I said, he's the other guy who's on that. Yeah, if there's any indication, it's that kind of transitive property type thing. So if Reedy lost to, or sorry, if Wakeland lost to Reedy and Reedy lost to Lone Star, the Lone Star should beat Reedy pretty easily.
It's just the eye test for me, where it's like, man, like if that Reedy team, like, because Reedy looked good for a lot of that for chunks of that Lone Star game, and it was for the early part of that Lone Star game, it was two teams playing hard-nosed. It's gonna be a slog of this game of teams just beating the crap out of each other is what it felt like. And then it turned into this crazy shootout thing by the end of it. I don't think that Wakeland is going to be able to play that brand of football. I think that they don't have the guys up front to kind of go toe to toe with Lone Star. And I don't mean to be, it feels hot. I hate saying that kind of thing. It's what we've seen from Reedy and stuff. I don't know. Maybe Frisco has the guys to do that, to go toe to toe with Reedy and Lone Star. That's the part I don't know about these other teams in the Frisco district, is who can actually get in the trenches with Reedy and Lone Star, because those two teams are just physical, and they love to hit each other. And I would love to watch those two teams play each other again.
And you know what we haven't even mentioned, or I mean, you kind of
I meant to allude to it, is like the Frisco High, right?
Well, no.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get
just you kind of glossed over just the offensive side, but like there's the Davian Gross X factor. Like I don't know if Wakeland has the players to contend.
Oh, I don't. Very few. I think very few high schools in the state of Texas have the players. I mean, to wrap a guy up like that.
Nobody did last year. That's why, as a freshman, he was a first team all district, and he's going to do it again this year, and he's probably going to do it again next year, and then the year after. And he's still a sophomore, and he has just put up gargantuan numbers in 3 games, 600 yards of total offense, 700 yards of total offense. It's ridiculous.
I mean, this is a guy who, the best way I can describe it, when we were at the Reedy game, and I'm sitting in the end zone, the only times this guy's getting tackled is when he's got multiple tacklers. You're having to get guys like Khalil Smith, who is an absolute beast, and it's still taking more than one guy. If you don't, it's almost Derrick Henry-esque, where if you do not meet him in the backfield, if he gets to the line of scrimmage and gets a little bit of momentum going, you're done, because he's going to get to the second level, and no one in the second level is going to be able to tackle him.
Yeah.
It's just game over. Like if you don't get 3 guys on him by the time he gets to the line of scrimmage, it's over, and he's breaking off a 40-yard run.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was a Reedy team that plays fundamental, sound, great team defense from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those, I think Derrick Henry is a very lofty.
It's a lofty compare. I just brought it up because that's just the first thing that comes to mind. And I don't like the player comparisons are tough, because it's no one's
they're each their own.
They're each their own player.
I think for the Texas high school football heads, especially those in this area, if you want a more apt comparison to keep it in the same realm, he reminds me of Ollie Gordon, who's over at Oklahoma State now. Very upright runner, but very shifty and hard to take down. Okay. The build is pretty much exactly the same. Tall, everything seems to be, from the torso up in terms of strength, but just somehow they can do take half a step and do 6 moves to avoid a tackle in one spot. It's
incredible. I mean,
he's my favorite player so far this season is Davion Gross. I wanted to see him very much so when we watched him. I almost want to go to every game now just to watch how electrifying he is. So
yeah, it's unbelievable. Him, I'm trying to think of anyone else that I've watched that's just
no, I don't.
I can't. It was unbelievable, and then just the one cut ability that he had. It was just, I hadn't seen a running back or almost anything like it at that level. And I watched Peyton Bowen, and for years it's that guy was electric, and it's just what on earth is for a high school athlete to be doing what he's doing, and at the size that he's at.
Yeah.
That's the part
6'1", 6'2".
Yeah. And that's the part that's I'm just all right, this is, whatever. That's it. All right. We can.
Yeah. That's a very in-depth discussion we had about those other games. We got one more on the docket before we get into our DenCo Gridiron game of the week, but that is Pantego versus Coram Dio. Again, back into the tap side of things. I just want to see Coram have a solid game on both sides of the ball. They haven't really had that in the first few games. I think right now they are 0-3, 0-3 on the season. But some pretty ugly losses, I guess is a kind way of saying it, really.
Yeah.
You lost by 43 to Covenant. You lost by 29 to Green Hill. You lost by 22 to Grace Prep last week. So just want to see them put together a decent game against Pantego on Friday night. All right, man. Yep. Let's get to it.
All righty, folks. It's time.
Every time I hear that, I feel like I'm about to watch like a dark superhero movie or something like that, or whatever, kind of like Dark Knight Rises, or like the Kraken from the Pirates of the Caribbean. They're about to come underneath the boat. It's very ominous.
That's why I love that kind of stuff. So.
All right, so as the screen showed, hopefully you're able to determine those logos and can read. It is Flower Mound versus Louisville. This was quintessentially the easiest game we latched onto for Friday night's game of the week. You got 2-1 teams. District opener, as we've said before, they're one of the 6A schools, or two of the 6A schools that are opening this week. Flower Mound lost last 2 weeks ago to McKinney. Again, a good McKinney team, 30-13. The troubling thing there is just overall in the season. Jake, don't call me Yale Erdman. Watson is only completing almost 48% of his passes of the year, and that's going to play right into a very opportunistic Louisville secondary. But if you want to play this team beat this team and that team beat the other team, so that means this team is better than the other game. They did beat Lake Highlands, who a couple weeks ago beat Highland Park pretty solidly, who beat Louisville a couple weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, by 3. So if this, then that means Flower Mound is the better team, right?
If we're doing mental gymnastics there, because we haven't gotten to see either of these teams, and we haven't seen either of these teams in person
this year, at least.
This year. And I think I saw Flower Mound once or twice last year. Saw Louisville several times. It wasn't until the playoffs that I actually got to go out there and see them. So it's good. I think this is a game that I am so excited for this one. Last year, this was only a 7-point game.
Yep.
In general.
That's that district play talk we talk about, though.
Yeah. I mean, in general, sometimes you have to just throw the rules out for district play.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter, especially when it's a district like this, like 6A, where it's been the same district, the same teams for so long.
Yep.
And these kids have known each other since like 3rd grade. They played Pee-wee football together. Like, this game just means a lot to these guys. It means more. Just a little bit more than just a normal district game where, Louisville's playing, like, let's say they playing like if Allen was in the district, it's going to mean more to them to play Flower Mound. And it's a little bit of you get that crosstown rivalry factor.
Yep.
And then now you've got Flower Mound, who's been playing, kind of shut us and I think a lot of people who cover high school football up just from how well they've come out and played. And this is a young team that's looked really good early in the year. So I think this game's going to be exciting, and Flower Mound's got that juice going where I think they want to just play really well and assert themselves as like, hey, we can win this district.
Yeah. And shout out to Brian Basil, who does a podcast with John as well each week. So if you want to kind of hear his take on things leading up to this game against Louisville, you can definitely check that video out. Yeah, and then on the Louisville side, we kind of alluded to it. We've talked about it, and especially after the loss to Highland Park, just that quintessential second-tier team. If you really wanted to be the Duncanvilles, the DeSotos, the Cadies, the North Shore, you have to beat everybody. It doesn't always have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be by 40 or 50 points, but you have to beat everybody and show, hey, we're that team. And against bad teams, they have, Mesquite, Naaman Forest, great wins, no questions about it. The offense hasn't had to do much. The defense has just completely shut everything down. And then you go against a competent team like Highland Park, and you just can't. The offense can't perform. The defense doesn't have enough stops because the offense is either 3-and-outing too much, or turning the ball over, or whatever the reason might be. So I haven't been impressed with them. And again, I think while the spread is pretty large in Louisville's favor, I think this one was the 26.5 that I remember seeing. We don't know. I mean, Flower Mound's playing great football right now, and Louisville is. I'm taking away the two wins because those seem like easy cupcake games.
Yeah.
You go against Highland Park. I mean, anybody who gives them any kind of resistance, it seems like it's going to be a close game, and I think we're going to get that again. I could be wrong. I'd be happy for this to. I'd be fine with being wrong, but I think this will be closer than definitely 26. It might be a 10 to 14 point game.
I think this is going to be a 1-possession game.
Ooh.
I think this game's going down to the wire.
Somebody wants to run back and forth between both sidelines.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Louisville has the ability to go out and run Flower Mound off the field. Will they do it? I don't think they will. They have not done that.
Yeah.
Like, if they really were, like we said, that tier 1 team, Highland Park's the kind of team I wanted to see you run them off the field. Like, I thought they could. Sure. And now, obviously, and they're playing at home this week. Louisville, I don't think quite has the home field advantage factor in this kind of game, even though they have a smaller stadium. And we've talked about this before in our previous episodes, where having a smaller stadium and being a little closer to the field can help. The big thing about these 6A games, especially with Flower Mound Marcus, and Louisville, these fans, it's easy for them to travel to this particular game.
Yep.
And
Flower Mound, right down the road.
It's right down the road for these guys. So those 3 schools in particular, they travel really well for these crosstown games. And I know Flower Mound, like their fans, the student section in particular, they get pretty rowdy for this stuff, these little rivalry games. And they're not going to be afraid to talk smack during the game. And I don't know how much that kind of will affect Louisville. I don't think it'll affect much in this particular game. I'm a little worried about Louisville. They have not.
Yeah, the offense has not been there, but there's any saving grace, I think, for Louisville.
The defense is a beast. They have not given up loads of points, and they have Jacob Watson could turn the ball over a few times. I think that's big for Louisville. I absolutely agree. I mean, he's only, like we've said earlier, he's only completing 48% of his passes. And if there's any team in the area outside of maybe Byron Nelson, it's this Louisville secondary that will happily feast on erratic throws or get to the quarterback with relative ease. I mean, look at Louisville's defensive stats, which I will get to here in a second. Because I got them pulled up. You got Sean Oliver, 12 tackles for loss, and then 3.5 sacks. We've got Ryan Sewell with Sewell with 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 19 total tackles. Yeah, and then D'Angelo King has been a beast. He's got 12 total tackles this year. And then Omarius Dimry Lockhart has the other guy with 1.5 sacks this year and 2 tackles for loss. So those guys up front are getting the job done. You just kind of tally up their team totals for the season. It's right around like 6 sacks, I think, for the season, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I've tallied that up correctly. With my very fat, it was 5.
No, yeah, you're right. I
think it's 6. I'm trying to do quick brain math. That's not my
and then the takeaways too. They've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total takeaways and a defensive touchdown. Actually, sorry, 4 defensive touchdowns. So they're very opportunistic. And if Jake Watson doesn't have a very strong game, it could be a laugher.
There's
so they're going to have to take care of the ball, and I think they're really going to have to feed it to their running backs. So Peyton Stadler, Jake Watson is even a running back there. He's got all 5 of their rushing touchdowns. So if you rely more on the ground game, shorten the game, and keep it close and ugly, Flower Mound definitely has a chance, and I think they did that against McKinney. I haven't seen any film of that game or really heard any secondary accounts of it, or secondhand accounts of it. So, but I think that's the game plan: is you are opportunistic with Jake as your throwing quarterback, but you run him more. He's got 40 carries on the year to Peyton's 42. They're really relatively close in stats, so it's a good two-headed monster. But you've got to be sound up front. Maybe Flower Mound isn't. Maybe they are. It's going to be tough against that defense.
Yeah. So the thing, I think the biggest worry for Flower Mound is going to be the turnovers. Like we've already talked about what happens there. They didn't rush the ball all that well. The offense just wasn't there for that McKinney game. The big thing I will point out in that McKinney game, and I think this is why they ended up losing, like we talked about earlier. We talked about this with Aubrey. We talked about this with the Colony. So we talked about it with the Aubrey on Saturday in our recap show of the Panther Creek Aubrey game. And then we talked about it just now with the Colony and Denton Ryan. Flower Mound just couldn't really keep the offense off the field just based on the box score and stuff. They never really let McKinney just flat out run away with everything. You know, there was one touchdown every quarter. And that's really how the game ended up going the way it did. It was only 14-7 at halftime. Mm-hmm. So Flower Mound kept this relatively, they kept themselves in this game. It was just a matter of the offense couldn't ever really get things clicking.
Yeah.
And if they can in this game against what I think is a not quite as good team compared to McKinney and Louisville, I think that I don't think Louisville is what McKinney is. McKinney has shown throughout this season they will beat anybody's drums off. Like they will beat you like a drum. They don't really care who they're playing. And Flower Mound to me is kind of what that Highland Park is, that in that Highland Park tier right now.
Ooh, wow, that's a bold take, my friend.
They're the kind of team where, like, if you're gonna be this upper echelon team that can compete for a state title, you need to beat them, and you need to beat them well, right? Like you shouldn't have an issue with them. But I think, you know,
I think regardless of the outcome, we're going to find out a lot more about the Louisville team this year. Mm-hmm. If you go out and just cakewalk over Flower Mound in this one, okay, this is that
we can chalk that Highland Park game up to a fluke. Right?
I'm fine with that, because that's a good team. That's a team that's won state championships and has one of the premier coaches in all of Texas high school football history. And Randy Allen. So if you go out and just mop the floor with them, you're basically saying, okay, it's going to come down between Louisville and Coppell whenever those two teams square out, because Coppell is undefeated right now. Shout out to Jake Tepper over at DCTF. He is a Coppell Cowboy. But if Flower Mound keeps it close like they did against McKinney, then you start to kind of, push, not always say push the panic button, but you've taken the case off the panic button, and you're kind of like, we're getting close. So it's
because they're also going to play somebody from 6-6A or as 5-6A that opening round of the playoffs. So you got to play somebody pretty deep. You're not playing a weak opponent that first round, especially if you end up in that second spot and you're not the district champ. You don't get to,
because then you'll be playing the one spot out of that district, which will most likely be Prosper. If things align the way we would,
because McKinney are they D2?
I think it depends on enrollment. So
it depends on who all makes the playoffs.
Who all are the top four, and then the top two enrollment size teams will go D1, and then the bottom two will go D2. I would think it would be Prosper and Louisville if let's say Louisville falls to they would be D1.
Louisville's pretty much a guaranteed D1. I know Allen is pretty much a guaranteed D1.
So it'd be either like Prosper, maybe it might be McKinney. But anywho,
I don't think there's I'm trying to. I know Geyer's pretty much like it's impossible for them to be D1, and then a couple of the other Denton ISDs like Braswell, it'd be impossible for them to be D1.
Yeah,
so
no,
it's a.
Anywho,
that's an end of the season discussion.
That's in a few weeks. Anywho, so we'll find out a lot about Louisville. I mean, we'll still find out about Flower Mound too, whether they are a team that's going to throw a wrench into the playoff dreams of some team, or be a playoff team, or if they got off to a hot start, and we're just going to see kind of them fade off toward the end. We'll find out about them too. But I think the biggest eyes are going to be on that Louisville side. It's like, okay, this was the darling pick outside of McKinney to be a team that makes a deep run. They're struggling against inferior opponents or teams that they should probably beat, and then just beating up on the teams that are way too inferior. Or, okay, they had a slip up at Highlander Stadium. That makes sense. That's a tough place to play. They're back to what they're supposed to be. So a lot of questions, but this is why I'm excited. I think it'll still be in that 10-14 range. I would be happy for a close game just because it makes for a better story. So we'll see on Friday night at Max Goldsmith Stadium. Shout out to that stadium. A lot of time spent there on Friday nights.
That's awesome. Yeah. You think it's gonna be excited? So you are excited to go back to the old stomping ground?
I've been there back.
I know you've been there before.
I missed the old 1098 building. And if anybody's familiar with it's the address, we just call it 1098. It was like a 112-year-old building that they finally knocked down a few years ago, and so the high school used to be like almost right up on Main Street, and now it's like almost a football field back because they started adding to it, and then they knocked down the front part and added more, so it's a little more recessed into off the street, so it doesn't hold the same appeal. And Max Goldsmith has done a whole bunch of updates, so when I went there, it was legit just the bleachers were there. There wasn't any. There was a gate, but it was like a little low gate or whatever. The press box was tiny and basically a box on top of the metal. Now it's the new turf. I think they're going to be adding a new video board before too long too. There, the stands have been not replaced, but like the outside facade has been added and changed. They have a brand new press box as of a couple years ago, actually last year. It's almost like, I don't know if you're familiar with the term Grandpa's hammer. Have you heard of this?
No, not a clue.
So let's say you have a hammer that your grandpa gives you, but you replace the handle, or you replace the hammer part, or you replace both parts. Is it still Grandpa's hammer? See, it's exactly. So it starts like, is this still the old Max Goldsmith Stadium of when I went there and everything? To me, no, because most of it has been changed. So it's a new stadium.
To the point where it's not the same.
But it's better though. Don't get me wrong. It was it was back in 2004. It was a POS. Like I hated going to that stadium, but now it's it's getting better and everything. Anywho, I don't have a lot of feels about it. It's just I go there. I'm like, okay, this is what it is now, and it'll never be back to what it was, and that's fine. It was progress, I guess. So. I don't know, man. But I think game-wise, going back to the game, I think it'll be exciting just to see the contrast and styles and what we'll get out of it. Because if things go sour quickly for Flower Mound, it's going to snowball. If they can muddy it up and keep it close, we'll be in for a heck of a game.
Yeah, I think if it's tight through the first half or so, I think then we're in for could be in some fireworks there in the second half. I'm not in the terms of it's going to be loads of points or anything, but just in the terms of a very fun ending where you're gonna have two teams, I think, coming out, and I think you have pads popping all night long. And
I think
I think that's gonna be the part that's gonna be a lot different. Is you'd have two teams just coming out with a rushing attack in that second half, trying to hold the ball. Who gets the ball last kind of game if it goes the way Flower Mound wants it. All righty, folks.
I can't wait. I love district openers. I don't think there's anything like it. And so here we go.
All righty. I think you said it best.